The Commission of Inquiry into Governance, or the lack of it really, at the South African Revenue Service is underway today. The Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan, who is also the former Finance Minister and the former head of this tax agency, is the first witness. The inquiry is expected to focus on the restructuring of the agency ever since the suspended Commissioner Tom Moyane took over the running of the agency in 2014. It will also be probing allegations of unauthorized bonuses to executives and the alleged withholding of refunds due to taxpayers, as well as supply chain management and tender processes as well. So then let's get to the latest details on this developing story. Angelo Coppola is live in Johannesburg tonight. He's got the data on this. So Angelo, this was the first day of the inquiry. What did we hear in the submission by Pravin Gordhan, current Public Enterprises Minister and former head of SARS?
Well, he spent the afternoon running through a really thorough presentation outlining what he had done at SARS when he got there. He spoke about the importance of institutional memory and he balanced that with transformation. He stressed that when he came on board all those years ago, most of the management at SARS were white. He changed that without losing staff, and he also claims to have maintained that institutional memory. He talked about attracting quality staff and incentivizing them. He also says that he left it in a functional situation, and the taxpayers, that's the country's taxpayers, were more tax compliant than they are today. It was doing a good job. So when Moyane came on board, he suggests, and wanted to restructure, Gordhan called him in and said, look, you need to explain why you need to do this restructure. And Moyane, of course, stonewalled him for that time. In fact, didn't give him the time of day. He also touched on the investigations units that he developed and created and used. And these were mainly to deal with, among other things, high net worth individuals and the mining sector, as well as the cigarette industry or the illicit cigarette industry. Gordhan also confirmed in an affidavit that was detailing his approach to an alleged pension payout to one of his colleagues, Ivan Pillay, as being legitimate and correct. This, of course, led to the charges laid against him and several others in 2016, which was subsequently withdrawn. So Gordhan appeared relaxed, in control, and he showed some steely resolve during this day of presentations. Raman?
Indeed. So what should we expect, and what should South African taxpayers, more importantly, expect from this inquiry into how SARS was being run?
Well, it's all about finding out what went wrong with the tax collection processes in the last 2 years. Ramaphosa wants to know if enough was done to address those revenue shortfalls. He also wants to know why Moyane, as you said earlier, withheld paying normal taxpayers refunds that were legally due to them, and only under court order did he actually release them. He wants the judge to look into allegations of those unauthorized bonuses that were paid to him, to Moyane and his management team. It's also about identifying who's responsible and fixing the process so that people become tax compliant again. There's also a fair amount of finger pointing against Moyane. Ramaphosa wants to know if politically connected people, read the Guptas and the acolytes here, benefited from changes to the SARS processes. The inquiry is also very specifically focusing on cigarette smuggling, because SARS has lost a huge amount of taxes and excise to cigarette smuggling in South Africa. Raman?
Indeed. One last question for you, Angelo. The immediate former head of SARS is now suspended. Tom Moyane has been suspended. But there was this interesting recording of a phone conversation that cropped up about 5 or so days ago, in which he's heard telling an employee of the agency, Helgard Lombard, to pretend to be ill in order to avoid talking to investigators from KPMG. Tell us more about that call.
Well, it's interesting because the timing of the release of that recording suggests that someone has an axe to grind somewhere. It comes just before Moyane's disciplinary process, which is separate to this inquiry that's underway at the moment, is due to start. In fact, it forms part of the state's case against Moyane. If the recording is verified, it's going to be very damaging, to say the least, because in it, Moyane is specifically instructing Lombard to pretend to be sick, as you've said, and to avoid those KPMG investigators. Moyane, through his lawyers, has denied that this recording is legitimate, saying that it's a dirty tricks campaign. You'll recall that KPMG were commissioned by Moyane to investigate Pravin Gordhan and his creation of those so-called rogue units. Apparently, the unit illegally bugged ex-President Jacob Zuma's Johannesburg home. The allegations were largely disproved. KPMG withdrew the report subsequently and paid a 21 million rand back into SARS. And this, of course, started the partial collapse of KPMG in South Africa. So the disciplinary hearing, as it develops, is going to be interesting, and there's probably going to be one big head that is going to roll. Raman?
Indeed, we'll see exactly whose head that is. And of course, as you pointed out correctly, KPMG's damage still reverberating all this time round. Angela Copeland in Johannesburg, thank you.